Mandisbulisele Manko, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great, Tobani, and yourself?
I'm doing quite great. Yeah. I want you to take this moment ubulise man bonke abantu bamameleyo. Maybe I'm sure you told some people to tune in and everyone else. Just greet to the listeners at home.
Hi, listeners at home. You're listening to Lita Nkosha, Lita Lama Komazi, Tuk Tuk Tuk. Yeah. I'm so happy to be here on this platform today and speaking to you guys about something that I'm really passionate about.
Wow. Thank you so much. Well, just before we went to that song, trying to box you into a category and
yes, I
heard
you. I always find it funny when people try to describe me because I'm such a dynamic person,
Exactly.
I have my foot in so many different things. But yeah, the best way I think you can describe me is that I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman. I'm someone who gets what they want. I rarely take no for an answer.
So now we like to try negotiate amanyan.
Yes, I'm a go-getter. I make things happen. I'm very passionate about people, I'm getting people to live their best life, to enjoy life and really expand their consciousness and expand their view on life.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I wouldn't be able. Today we are talking about, support culture. And that is what we are talking about in our conversation. But just before we get into that, I want to just pick your brain on something. And I believe that it will feed straight directly into what we are talking about. There's I don't know if I can call it a movement that you are working with Kuyo. What drove you to be part of that, even before we go into our conversation?
So the whole point of you're talking about East London Youth in Business,
yes,
right? So the platform, we decided to come up with the platform because we wanted a space for like-minded individuals, right, to rally around the same cause, which is obviously economic freedom, because it's about young people that are in business. We found that although there are some things that government has in place, so for example NYDA, for a lot of people on the grassroots level, they're inaccessible, right? So Umdo will be like, oh no, maybe they'll hear about kind of funding NYDA, kind of see that, but then once you actually get there, there's so many loopholes, there's so many delays. You'll find that even if you fill out applications and stuff, you never really get the help that you're seeking as a young person, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we wanted to create a platform so that you can actually have a voice when it comes to the policy making, right? So for example, we want people to be able to, if we are a collective, we want it so that the policies that they make are actually relevant to us as young people and they actually make a difference, Because for example, if you look at something like COVID, now we've gone into a digital age, so people aren't going to want funding for brick and mortar businesses. They're not going to want storefronts. They're going to need funding for more things on the digital space, right? So for employees that know IT, things like that. So that is the type of platform that we're providing for people. We're also providing different like knowledge based, so it's going to be a knowledge based platform as well, so people are going to get different resources and just like information that's important for startups.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I can even attest to what you are saying. You find there are and there are great organizations, but because of you find that young people are not involved in the policy making and in the implementation of all these agencies. There are so many loopholes, and they even become to a point inaccessible to your ordinary person who wants to start a business, especially in the context of a black child, because I remember even when I was busy registering and trying to go about starting and getting funding for my own business, the loopholes that I had to kind of go through, and the red tape to such a point that I think it took me 2 years to almost get funding.
And that's a very long lead time, especially if it's an idea that you need a lot of funds to actually
Uh-huh.
get it going. You know,
Mm.
sometimes it's different when it's something that you don't need. Let's say you need, like, let's say a minimum of 10,000, right?
Uh-huh.
So sometimes a person is able to raise those kind of funds. But when we're looking at
Mm.
bigger businesses where you need a lot of stock to actually get
Mm.
going and compete in the market, it
Mm.
basically renders you paralyzed as a
Mm.
business owner or as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur that's trying to start up.
Sure, that's so true. Well, let's get into today's discussion. We're talking about support culture, and maybe before we even go further into it, for you, when we talk about support, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And do you think Ogoti, a support culture is something that exists in our modern day era? You know, looking at our society, do you think it's something that exists? And for you, what do you refer to a support culture as?
Well, I think support does exist in our modern day society and the culture today.
Mm.
But specifically for us, what I've seen is that there's been a movement from big business to more of supporting the individual, right?
Uh-huh.
So when it comes to things like social media, I think that's become a big influence because you find that if I buy into you as a person and I like the person that you are, I like your values, I like the type of image that you portray on
Uh-huh.
social media, I'm more likely to support you. Hence the influencer market. Because why can we influence people? We can influence people because those people have now bought into me as a person, right? So
Wow.
I'm influential because people like what I like, or
Mm.
people, because they like me, they're going to like what I like because they
Uh-huh.
trust me, right? So
Mm.
that comes with consistency, that comes with being very transparent, that comes with
Mm.
being very likable, very
Mm.
personable. So then it's created a whole market. Hence, we have influencers,
Uh-huh.
because they literally, it's because they have a following of people that are so interested or so have such a great buy-in in their life
Uh-huh.
and their lifestyle.
Mm. Now, when it comes to now the ground, or if maybe I can put it like this, the grassroots level, something that
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed, and I think it's some kind of like a plague on its own. Mhlambi ke you'll differ with me with this view, especially when it comes to us as people of color. You know, you look at how we do things, you know, kind of always waiting for things to blow up before we can rally behind those things. And you look at this and you see
Mm-hmm.
it when it comes to the creative space artists. You'll see ukuthi artists ebesingazikhathalelanga the time they were still here in our community. You know, singena xesha labo singababonela entweni. Once they mhlambi ke their talent is scouted in America and they come back here, now we take them seriously. They say, wow, they're so talented. Where does that place us when it comes to support, and how does that even position or impact us now when it comes to even competing on a global scale as a nation?
I think it's a very interesting and nuanced topic, that, especially when you look at support and when it comes to the Black identity or the identity of a person of color, right, as a community,
Um,
because the way that our self-image sometimes tends to be very negative, and that's a self-image that was imposed on us, especially if we look at a society like South Africa and even America, right? Because
yeah.
we've been historically victims of racism,
Uh-huh.
right?
Hmm.
So with that brings a negative self-image,
Um.
impoverishment of our ego as a
Uh-huh.
society. So we always think that everyone else is better, everything that comes from everyone else is better, right?
Hmm.
So as a person, you might aspire, you know the saying like I've made it, right? So you
Hmm.
might think that you've made it once you own something that is foreign, like for example a
Hmm.
brand like Gucci, Versace, or like from Rome, like so you have Fendi, things like that,
Hmm.
or German sports cars, right? So we associate success with a lot of brands that symbolize whiteness and white
Hmm.
capitalism, right?
Sure. Hmm.
So then, when it comes to us, when we see someone who might be trying to break into those different industries,
Hmm.
because we always assume that we associate it with whiteness, and then we see a black face, we're like, okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Hmm.
We'll see how far you go. Like
Sure.
we're not going to invest in it, right?
Yeah.
Because number one, we have that negative self-image about ourselves.
Hmm.
And number two, we might even have something that is called like jealousy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all know jealousy is a normal human emotion.
Hmm.
So a lot of times people might be envious of where did you get the guts to actually
Mm.
go for what you want? Because I'm like, maybe we come from the same community, we come from the same place, we went to the same schools, right?
Mm.
But where did you get the guts? Where did you find the self-confidence or the
Mm.
confidence or the belief in your dreams to actually
Sure.
go for it? Because a lot of these things seem so unattainable when actually it's just about starting,
Mm.
because before you had an Estee Lauder, right? That's a company that's been around for 100 years. If you look at
Mm.
Coca-Cola, it's been around for 100 years.
Yes. Mm.
So that takes time. Any brand takes time to make, but it will never be the brand that we know of today if that person never started, right?
Uh-huh.
So for a lot of time, we want to kick someone while they're still learning.
Mm.
I was listening to someone and they were like, black women deserve grace. I saw it on Twitter, right? So
Uh-huh.
black women deserve grace.
Mm.
And we find, what I've seen is that when people start businesses, or when we look at the influencer market or the cancel culture, right?
Mm.
Cancel culture is, it's an important movement because people have gotten away with so many evil things in our
Mm-hmm.
society,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
But now you find that someone, maybe a young woman that's 21,
Mm.
wants to start an Instagram boutique, or they want to start a YouTube channel. And then we dig up things from when they were 15, 16. I mean, a lot of
Mm.
us at those ages were impressionable. A lot of us
Mm-hmm.
hadn't gone to varsity and studied, all about society and social
Mm.
ills and all of those
Uh-huh.
things. So now someone is educated or has a better awareness of the society that we
Uh-huh.
live
Than
in.
before.
Their
Mm.
views have changed, and now we're so quick to want to cancel them. I mean,
Sure.
there's a YouTuber that I follow.
Mm.
Um, she's a black woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they dug up some tweets about her saying that she didn't like being black. And I mean, as a black person, we've
Sure.
all experienced it when you went to a Model C school, or just
Mm.
generally in society, where people make you feel so bad for being black that
Mm.
you develop a self-hate, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
she happened to voice it out, and now it's public knowledge. And I mean, that was 14, adolescent, right? That person
Imagine.
hasn't even developed fully,
Mm. And
and now
this
you
is
want to
only
cancel
coming
them
up
at the
now.
age of 20, and you want to
Mm.
cancel them at the age of 23, 24. And it's like, that's not fair. I mean, we've seen this person for the last 3 years or 4 years
Mm.
embrace their blackness and love themselves as a black woman. So now,
Sure.
why do we not want to give that person grace, right? So
Sure.
for us in business,
Mm.
in business, or whatever you want to commodify, whether it's yourself as in your personality,
Mm.
or you want to commodify like a product,
Mm.
as black people, we need to give ourselves grace as a community to know that this person, especially in the early stages, this
Mm-hmm.
person is learning. If this
Mm.
person addresses an issue, so as a consumer, like, you go to whatever product you're buying,
Mm.
you tell them, and you tell them what you don't like or what you do like.
Mm.
When you tell them what you don't like, and they make a concerted effort to
Uh-huh.
fix that problem,
Uh-huh.
then I think that person does deserve grace. That person
Yeah.
does deserve a second chance. You would give. It's like, if you get something that has expired from Spar, you don't stop buying from
You
Spar.
don't.
Like, we all know that. We just like, okay, next time I'm just gonna be more careful. But I mean, you still go to Spar,
And
or you
it
still
goes
go to
in
Woolworths.
when I related to exactly, this and there's this counterintuitive culture that we have, that kind of like fights against us, because today we find a lot of I can say engagement and support, Yokoba, support even black businesses, but you kind of like find it within our own circles that we are failing to do that. And you to such a point that currently I don't know if maybe it was early this year when there was a trend, a situba, stop saying that we must support black businesses because black businesses produce services that are below quality and all those. So people were kind of like giving out all their
Yes.
complaints and everything with regards to why they will never again support black businesses. And I'm just alluding to what you're saying, but if you look at these big corporate companies right now, to mention no names, if you buy from them and then you find a product that is below substandard, you don't stop buying from them, but you tell yourself, Ogoti, no, what I'm going to do is next time I'm going to be much more careful, or next time I'm not going to buy from this outlet, I'm going to buy from another outlet. You don't stop completely. And this now brings to my mind, Ogoti, could this be the reason why mhlambi progression yethu is going to be stifled as a people? So for Mansuba, we are still, as much as by eminye iminyango isivuleka kancinci kancinci, people, when they talk about the 21st century, we are living in a time where the level of equality, the level of fairness is exponentially greater than the years or 10 or 15 years before this. So even though that may be the case, but for Mansuba, our progression towards success is really slow because of these habits that are kind of like, we are fighting against building a culture of support. And yes, and then we can say that it has been engraved in us because of the apartheid era. Will that be a fair assessment after even 26 years of being set free, to say that it's still their fault?
The thing is with Black people and us as a community, it runs even deeper than apartheid, right? It's imperialism. So it's Black people across the diaspora, across Africa, across the world, right? We have been, as a community, our consciousness has been brought down, has been beaten down. Our love for ourselves has been beaten down, because with us, if you look at other communities or other ethnic groups, right, they keep things within their ethnic group. So, for example, if I don't want to name others, but for example, if something happens in a business, in a local business, right, a person from your ethnic group will come and be like, you know what, no, this is not how it's done. And they'll come and they'll actually show you how to maybe do your work or how to have a better customer service, so that people don't associate, because with them as well, they have pride. So they don't want to be associated with negative service, So as a people, what we like to do is we be like, or how we paint the brush as we painted Black business. We shouldn't have painted Black business. Black business people don't know how to give service. No, that particular business person doesn't know how to give service. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because now when you say Black business, it's our entire community. That's negative connotation to every Black person in business. Do you get what I'm saying? That is such a broad and sweeping statement, and it's simply not true. Yes, you've had a negative experience with this person, but not all Black people in business don't know how to service people. Because if we look at the service industry, who are those people? If you go, what skin tone are the cashiers? What skin tone are the people that you call a customer service? What skin tone? I mean, even in executive positions now, you have more people of color, more women of color. Do you get what I'm saying? More Black women. Like, we live in an African country, right? So a lot of these positions in these quote unquote corporate spaces, some of them are filled by Black people who obviously know how to give service to some extent. So that means inherently that Black people are able to give service. So why do we think that all of a sudden, when I'm the owner of the business, I don't know how to do that? When the owner of the business is Black, all of a sudden we no longer know how to service people. But our people service everyone in South Africa all day, every day,
Sure. And so, really, that's
I think
true.
It's a mindset. The way that we speak about ourselves needs to change. The way that we look at ourselves needs to change, right? The same love that you expect or that you want from someone is the same love that you need to give out, right? So, because if I want to be supported, I need to be someone that is consistent. I need to be someone that is ethical. I need to be someone that is transparent, right? Even in my business, that's how you operate. So if I'm doing that and I communicate, as Black business owners, I think also sometimes we kind of rely on the old things of like word of mouth, like that's how people that I'm going to be advertised word of mouth.
Mm.
But I mean, really, sometimes people don't like, they just buy and they're happy, but they're not going
And
to
keep
speak about,
quiet.
oh, I bought a
Uh-huh.
teacup
And I want
the other
to.
day, because there's also like a
Mm.
bragging thing. No one wants to brag, right? So maybe they don't want
Exactly.
to advertise your product so much.
Mm.
But if you as a person that wants to be supported, you make it known by, this is what I'm doing. You
Uh-huh.
update people, because you
Mm.
need to educate people on whatever you're doing, whether
Mm.
it is a it is yourself. So maybe you want support for your own personal endeavors or your business endeavors. You need to educate people on why they should support you. So
Uh-huh.
make your values known. Make your experience known. Like, so what are people, when they interact with you, what type of
Mm.
experience are
Can
they
they
going to have?
expect?
Are they going to
Wow.
leave feeling happy? Are they going to leave feeling satisfied? That's
Mm.
very important.
Wow. You've touched on quite a lot of points, and something that I'm just thinking of. But perhaps maybe the problem runs deeper than we actually see it. And this is something that I want you maybe to touch on when we come back from the song break. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you see go to this thing of, building a support culture is something that enqabileyo, even when it comes to within our families, without even going outside the kude. You find that even in your own family uzawufumanisa uba kunzima even to kind of like get that thing ukuba no qhubekeka mntanam, keep on going, for the most part, up
Mm-hmm.
until you start doing well and kuze results ntweni le nto lena. And this applies more to us as people of color than the other part of our nation, if I may put it like that. And maybe that's where
Mm-hmm.
the problem starts. And after the break, I want you to just gather your thoughts around that, and we're just going to take a short song break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with our conversation now.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, well, Jessica, you are having a good conversation with Lily Tangosha, talking about support culture. Do we actually have it as a community, especially as black people? And could that be the reason why sometimes we are lagging behind in terms of, going ahead and succeeding, simply because we are not building up a support culture around what we do? Let's sing the song Emotionless by Drake.
I think when it comes to our families, and how people interact within the family unit,
Mm.
it definitely, when it comes to not having support, it definitely will affect someone very negatively,
Uh-huh.
right? And I think it comes to the generational trauma that exists within the black family unit,
Uh-huh.
right? So it happens like, so if you're doing something that no one has ever seen, or they don't have a lot of knowledge in,
Yeah.
right? The black experience makes you want to do makes our parents want us to follow things that are more secure, where the
Mm.
outcome is known.
And
Because
I
I
want
think
to
for
just get
them,
in when a Payana, because I love the point that you are bringing, Gawati. It is the culture and the generation, that everything that they experienced. It is not from a place of just wanting to put you down, but it is because of the
yes,
culture that they have grown up in. They are more inclined to accept and support something that they are familiar with. So now when you come with something new,
yes.
that's where the struggle starts. Continue.
Hmm. Yes, definitely. So the struggle will start when you come with something new, because number one, they already experienced prejudice, right? So even if when they go for things that is known, so for someone applying to university, or when they wanted to be teachers or
Uh-huh.
going to professions like being doctors, engineers,
Hmm.
lawyers, they were met with resistance, right? And
Hmm.
that those are clear cut types of professions. It's just
Uh-huh.
study, pass, you become this thing, right?
Hmm.
That's what you get taught. But for them, that's not the experience. The experience was,
Hmm.
first of all, we don't want you
Hmm.
people, you black people, we don't want you at our universities, we don't
Hmm.
want you to become professional. So
Hmm.
even those secure jobs for them were actually risks.
Hmm.
And now for us, they might look at you as young people, and they're like, why don't you go for something that is secure? Like for them, they would have loved an opportunity where it's so, let me say, no, I don't want to say it's easy
Mm.
but more accessible. Those type of things are
Uh-huh.
more accessible, right?
Mm.
And there's more job security.
Yeah, more stability.
Specifically speak, yes, more stability, right?
Mm.
But then now you come with maybe something that is what they would say is new age, or something that is like a millennial job,
Mm.
something that no one really like, even your job title, no one has heard about it before.
Mm.
And then you come with it, and then they're like, okay, fine, but how do you know this thing is going to like pan out?
Work.
Like
Mm.
maybe you want to go to a private university. How do you know that it's going to be successful? Because they haven't seen anyone that's going to be successful. So
Mm.
I think it's mostly from a place of fear. And then you just
Mm.
have those. Unfortunately, you have those family dynamics that are just negative. Where people are just negative. Sometimes they even abusive. In those types of instances, and even when it's just your parents have fear, whether it's fear or like an abusive maybe home situation.
Mm.
I always say to people, you should try. What's great about friends is that it's family that you choose, right?
Mm.
So try surround yourself with like-minded individuals.
Mm.
Sometimes when you want to do something, it's better to not talk about it if you know you're going to get a negative response, right?
Yeah, so
Don't
true.
you don't when it comes to that situation, don't tell them, or
Mm.
don't tell those people that are negative. Don't tell them, because you're just bringing a negative mindset into your consciousness, right? So you're going
Mm.
to go back, whatever something that's negative, it comes, it's in your brain, whether or not you tell yourself you're going to think about it, it's in your
Mm.
subconscious, right?
True.
So now
Mm.
when you make decisions, you're also going to embody that fear of someone else.
Mm.
So if you really want, if you know that you're not going to get something that's positive, I always say to people, tell the people that are like-minded.
Mm.
And if there are no people that are like-minded, there's great things like books. Books really transform you to
Mm.
another universe. When you read about success stories, when you read about
Uh-huh.
how to really go about starting your business, or how to really go about creating a path for yourself and a
Uh-huh.
life for yourself that you
Mm.
that you want.
Mm.
Books are a great resource, and I say books because not everyone has data maybe to
Uh-huh.
interact on social media or watch
Mm.
YouTube videos. But I mean, libraries are free. It's a free resource.
That's
Reading the
true.
newspaper, the free
Mm.
resources.
Mm.
So feed your mind in that way. Like create an environment where you receive some sort of
Mm.
positivity.
Yeah, because
And then also friends.
mm.
Mm, so even, and because some people don't have friends, like you go through periods in your life where you might not have friends, or
Friends,
you
true.
might, like what we're saying, you might have a family member that is supportive, and unfortunately that person passes away, or
Mm-hmm.
you live away from them, so you can't
Mm.
access that extra boost like in
Mm.
person. So when you
Yeah.
have like books where you can read about someone, the great creators of our time, so Warren Buffett and Elon
Uh-huh.
Musk, and like even writers, so authors,
Wow.
African authors. I love African authors, like Black women that write. I
Mm.
love those type of things. So those type of people, because you can relate to them. You can
Mm-hmm. To
relate
their
to their
stories.
stories.
Mm.
And even if you can't relate, maybe for you, you don't have the same story,
Mm.
but you can become inspired. There was something called a bonangia, a very bonangia
Uh-huh.
played on
Uh-huh.
SABC One,
Mm.
and I love that it played on SABC One, because
Mm.
SABC One is accessible to most, if not all, South Africans.
Uh-huh.
So
Mm.
that's her being aware of her story is inspirational, and
Uh-huh.
everyone should get to see it, right? It
Mm.
shouldn't just be accessible to people that have it dish, no,
Dish.
or DSTV,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Yeah.
Everyone should get to see it. Everyone deserves to be inspired. Everyone, because we don't know who a very bonang touched. We don't know which girl
Mm.
was like, oh my word,
I
actually
can
I can
do
go to the
it.
USA. Like
Mm.
it doesn't, yes, I can do it. If one person can do it, that means it's not impossible.
Mm, that's so true. I think you are basically touching on the next question that I was going to ask you. And you talked about the fact that if perhaps you don't have a family or people around you that are so supportive, there's a family that you choose, which is basically your friends. And I think we are getting into a time where we need really to become intentional about building those support structures around ourselves as,
Mm-hmm.
young people more especially, because at least Tina, we sibe saba caught between these two worlds. As you said, ukuthi our parents, they do not want the worst for us when they don't understand and when they are not fully supporting the visions that we have. It's because this is something foreign to them. So because of that,
Mm-hmm.
abayiqhelanga yonke loo nto, and you find with that kind of like pushback. So Tina, we have experienced that, and I think now it is a call to us as this generation and moving forward to make up our minds to go to, what, we're going to become those type of people. We create, intentional friendships, intentional connections that are going to be, fully supportive of our dreams. And when we talk about support, it's not always going to be rosy all the time. Support sometimes means even correcting each other. Support sometimes means,
Yes.
rallying behind a person. Sometimes it means saying, no, what you are doing right now is wrong. So I think we really need to become people who are intentional about that. I remember a couple of days ago, I was watching, another guy, a friend of mine, and he comes from a good family, and the support from his family was really, really outstanding. And I said to him, my friend, the success that you are, kind of like aspiring and working towards, don't ever lack appreciation for your family, because I believe manokuthi we are even clinicians and therapists bazawutsho ukuthi singabantu who like validation. So now imagine if you're getting that validation from home, from people around you, how much it's going to be able to propel you to actually fight for your dreams and to actually fulfill the purpose that you are here on earth to serve, rather than just becoming another generic person who follows the pattern that has already been laid. Because I think that now we end up becoming victims of is to fall into the pattern that has already been set for us, because at least it has less resistance. If I decide to throw away my passion for media and rather go and study and get a degree in, to become a doctor, that will become something that abantu will applaud me for, because it's the normal route, but I won't find fulfillment in it, and I won't really have much impact as I could have when it comes to media. So I think really we ought to become people who are intentional as our generation moving forward. We are going to build those intentional relationships that are formed and based around the support. And just before I let you in on some of the things that you think we can do moving forward, to build a support culture around us as people and even as people of color, I remember someone was talking about the Stellenbosch and the mafia group or something like that. And in the book, when you actually read the book, you'll actually find out, man, actually what happened here, this is a group of young people. We can debate again, talk about they were already privileged or what so not. But this is a group of people who had decided, what, we are going to be in full support of each other. If someone is starting an endeavor, we are going to support him. And if starting an endeavor, we are going to be fully supportive of each other in our journeys, in our businesses, and in everything that we do. Today we have, business people, some of the biggest retail companies, they come from people abapayan. Some of the biggest firms, the investments, they come from people there, only because they decided to say, what, we are going to sit down and we are going to support each other. We are going to build this group that is filled with trust and support. So I think really we ought to become people who are intentional around that. So for you, Lilita, what do you think are some of the things that really we can do moving forward? Because like maybe sometimes to only just point out the problems, we also need to kind of bring it down to the personal level. So now what can I do? Because I'm facing this problem. Really, I have this dream and I find no support in my family. I find no support in my community. They are telling me, oh, I can't. What do I do moving forward so that I can be able to really actually end up making my dream come to fruition?
What I would say, number one, I already touched on it, the reading books, like what you're saying, for example, the Stellenbosch Mafia. That's an awesome book. I haven't read it personally, but I'm definitely gonna read it now. Because of your description. But I would say reading, choosing, like, so being intentional about your network, so choosing
Uh-huh.
friends that are like-minded, ambitious people that are going to push you. Even on social media, if you don't have friends, let's say you have friends who maybe don't have the same interests as you
Uh-huh.
necessarily,
Mm.
follow people that are already industry professionals, industry experts, just to keep that inspiration going, because they're going to talk on topics that you enjoy. They're
Mm.
going to be educating you, so it's going to be feeding not only your passion but your knowledge base on the
Uh-huh.
topic. you
Mm.
know and then I would say, secondly, you spoke about the initiative that me and the platform that me and Obo Shali have started.
Perfect.
So for young people, I think whatever your interests are, you're in media, and you've got this great platform, the radio station and everything like this, radio
Mm.
station. So I would say, go find you have found a group of people, that are interested in the same thing as you,
Mm.
and that is keeping you going. So for young
Huh.
people, I think, don't wait for someone to start something. If you've got an idea, even if it's just a Facebook support group or a Facebook page, or just a meeting, like maybe you are interested in pageants, like I did pageants when I was younger. So maybe you're
Uh-huh.
interested in pageants. Start There are a lot of people that have done pageants before. Start a Friday group, a meeting on Fridays where you guys meet with young girls in your community, and you just teach them how to walk a
Mm.
T, how to smile, how to pose. In that way, you kind of have a purpose. Yes, you're not going to be getting money, right, for it,
Uh-huh.
but you're practicing your craft. You're living
Mm.
in your craft. You're living in your passion. So then, what does that do for you as a person? That fuels you, because now, when you encounter negativity, you have your tank is filled with more positivity. So even if someone can be negative today, you're like, you know what, it's fine. Now I know tomorrow I'm meeting up with my girls. We're gonna talk about
Mm.
Miss Universe. We're gonna talk about Uzozi, but
Uh-huh.
Uzozi because we all pageant girls, so we all like pageants. So we talk about Uzozi, so so your soul is going to be fed as a
Mm.
person. So
Wow.
I think that's the most important thing, is for you to really try to build, what you're saying, networks, platforms. Just be creative in the way that you're going to feed yourself, and
Mm.
in terms of your passion, like feed your soul, feed your interests. Because as young people, sometimes we also want to chase success. So we like, oh, people are only going to support me once I'm successful, so that means I've got to be successful
Mm.
now. And it's like, when you're successful now, a hot flame burns quickly. That means it's going to be only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
If you
Mm.
get if it happens now, it's only going to be 15 minutes.
Mm.
It's going to be instant, just instant gratification. Ipele.
Pale.
And
Mm.
you won't even have, like, constantly ipele. You won't acquire the skills and the knowledge that you
Mm.
need for
Mm.
a sustainable legacy, a sustainable career.
Uh-huh.
When
Mm.
someone that has, if for example you've been doing something for 10 years, that's 10 years worth of knowledge. That
Uh-huh.
means 10 years, that's another 10 years of output. So
Mm.
altogether, that's 20 years. That's
Yeah.
sustainability.
Mm.
That's real. That's real. Legacy. Do you know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
So yeah, ideas in equals ideas out. So the more you can take in and learn from people around you, the more you can give, the better your products, the better your, just whatever endeavor that you're going to give, the better the outcome is going to be.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, I think sesibethwa nje ixesha kuthiwa liqhatshwe nguToki.
Mm.
Well, and I think there's a lot that you are doing. You've already touched on, the East London youth movement, and what are some of the other things that you are currently busy with at the moment?
Right now, I'm basically doing East London Youth in Business,
Mm.
and then I'm in the process of developing some beauty brands. So
Uh,
people must just look out on my profiles, Lita Ngosha on Instagram and on Facebook. So
mm.
they'll be able to keep up with me there. It's Women's Month, so I am focusing more on things to do with women and,
Um,
beauty. I am interested in beauty because I am an ex pageant girl. So, but with me, I want something, whatever I put out there, and I need the product to be perfect. When I say perfect, I want something that is going to be value for your money.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
something of value. I don't want to just, I'm not like, there's this thing called fast fashion, which is okay. But I mean, I don't, people will enter in a recession basically. So when someone spends their coins with me, I want them to be like, yes,
This is
that was
worth
worth it.
it.
And I can't wait to get another one.
You want to keep them coming, basically.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I want to confess even before I let you go. Some of the reasons why I thought you would make the perfect person to really bring on board and talk about this. I remember the last time when we were, having our conversation on refining perspectives, and you had came along with your mom, and that to me was like, wow. I don't know Babanga for mama who would be able and willing to do what your mom, did. Videorizer and the whole thing, then, and the support was just phenomenal, too much. I was like, no, this is admirable. So uba umamele umamzo naye nandondibulisele kuye, and all the best, Ned, all the
I'll tell
best.
her. She's an angel. She really is an angel.
Ne?
Blessing. Yeah, she is.
Well, Papa Isaman, to all the listeners at home,
Okay.
tell
Bye,
them where they can find you.
everybody. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my Tobani talk today, and thank you, Tobani, for having me. It's such a pleasure being on your platform. The listeners can find me at Lita Ngotla, like I said, on Facebook and on Instagram, and then as well on East London Youth Business. So it's for all our young entrepreneurs in the East London area. I'd also just like to say that I'm so proud to be Umdo Asemondi. Wherever you go, whether you're in Joburg, Cape Town, wherever when you find Umdo Asemondi, you're just like, oh, this is that thing, man. Like. Get irritated. I have one friend at my university. People always get irritated with us because we've just got that thing. We just clicked immediately because I'm from and we were just like, you know what? We just became inseparable. So it's really cool. I love, so in East London, I must say, even though we were speaking about support and how sometimes there's a lack, as a community, we really support, whether it's our creative people, whether it's people that go into music, people that go into digital, the digital space or the influencer space. We really do, as a community, we really do support each other, and I really love that and appreciate it about our community.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much, for joining us. Thank you. Kandi I know there are quite a few of listeners who tune into this show from Cape Town on a regular basis. Was Betty Sangabo Gegoko. So East London rocks. So thank you so much anyway
East London does rock. Why do they all come here? Got to say, they mustn't play.
Well, Lilith, it was a beautiful pleasure. It was a great time having you on the show. Thank you so much, man, for taking time and slotting us into your busy schedule. I really appreciate it.